What's up? Today we got Arrow Season 1, Episode 2, Honor Thy Father. So this episode starts off with Oliver narration before we get into some hood action where the hood is beating up some bad guy. And he's like, Jason Redman, you have failed this city. A very good line that would become his iconic catchphrase. Yeah. So then Oliver comes in and he makes a Kardashian joke about how the hood gets more airtime than the Kardashians. And Thea's like, 5 years on island and you still know who they are. He's like, I've been catching up. Oliver, have you really been catching up on the Kardashians? So yeah. So then Oliver, goes to a courthouse so he can obviously be officially resurrected from the dead. And Thea doesn't want to go because she's been in courthouse with him too much. Okay, and that's when they run into Laurel, and Laurel's obviously not happy with Oliver because of the ending of the last episode where she told him to stay away from him. And yeah, and we also meet a very important character for this episode, Emily Nocenti. Her dad was recently killed by the Triad, and which was orchestrated by Laurel, the guy Laurel prosecuting. Yeah, the guy Laurel prosecuting. Um, what's his name? Yeah, yeah. Laurel's prosecuting this guy, and his name is. Oh, up with it. Martin Summers, yeah, Martin Summers. Almost lost the name, but she's Martin Summers hired the Triad to kill Emily Innocenti's dad. So Laurel is obviously, but he's like, hey, we gotta get Laurel to shut this down. But that's when Oliver comes in, busting in and attacking Summers and his guys, and he obviously enlists Lance to helping him. Lance is like, yeah, you heard about Hood, he's some guy, Robin Hood, think, thinks he's trying to steal from the poor and give to wealthy. Eh, yeah, but he's a killer, so, yeah. So, yeah, so, but Martin Summers kind of threatens Quentin, saying, yeah, you don't know what he'll be like when his emotions aren't in check, so, yeah, kind of threatens him, but but yeah. So so Thea accidentally sees Oliver's scar, and Oliver tries to play it off like, yo, what are you doing here? And he plays off like, oh yeah, but she's like, yeah, who cares? You're judging, you're ignoring Walter, you're ignoring Moira, yeah, you're ignoring Walter, and you're judging Thea. But here's the thing. Oliver just doesn't want Thea to become Oliver 2.0. He probably regrets what he did in the past, and he doesn't want Thea to, like do drugs and yeah. So yeah, so always out though. So yeah, so Thea, uh, yeah, so Thea like takes him out and is like, hey, when, what, when, yeah. So she basically explains that when Oliver and Robert were thought to be dead, Warner basically just stopped talking and going out all together. It's basically Walter that brought her back to reality. So She doesn't want to say that, but I'm guessing that happened. So yeah, so Oliver, she's like, yeah. But she would come there to talk to Oliver and like what she was doing that day, what guy she had a crush on, and and she, and she'd always tell Oliver to come back to her, and she felt closer to Oliver when he was dead, and and she's like, you gotta let someone in, Oliver. You gotta let someone in, Ollie. So Oliver goes to Laurel's apartment, thinking, hey, since Laurel's the first one he pushed away, he can, you know, make it up to her. And he starts saying about, all right, his mom wants him to take over the company. His mom wants him to take over the company, and yeah, but then the triad, since the triad want the trial of Martin Summers to be shut down, they're like, we gotta kill Laurel. So they attack Laurel and Oliver, and Oliver, obviously, since Oliver's on island, he knows very good skills, so he's able to figure out what's on the vents, and they get attacked. But the savior of the show, my boy John Deagle, shows up and beats all these guys. Like, he's like, all right. So yeah, so Quentin basically is like, hey, you can, like, for say Laurel, and you can, and you can, like, he's free to walk around the city whenever he wants or later or something. But he's like, he was just doing his job. And he's like, your job is to look after Oliver. And he's like, every time you're with one of his daughters, people die. Just stay away from Laurel. And Laurel tries to vouch for him, saying, like, Quentin. But Oliver's like, yeah, that's okay. And leaves. So, oh yeah, so Diggle gives Oliver the speech about how love is a battlefield. Everyone's trying to get you, making you open up and be who you're not. So, so So Oliver decides to kidnap Martin Summers and say, hey, you have failed the city, dude. And he's like, yo, you have failed this city. And basically attacks him and basically keeps throwing arrows at him. And he reveals that he's the one, he's the one that told the Triad to attack Martin Summers. Yeah, he's the one that told the Triad to attack Martin Summers. And, he's told the Triad to attack Victor Innocenti. And yeah, he told Triad to attack Victor Innocenti and over it. Yeah, but then the white Triad lady who we saw prior attacks Oliver. But then the cops come and they're supposed to leave. Summers Summers gets thrown in jail. Summers gets thrown in jail. Laurel Laurel, yeah, the cops that Quentin's dad scored on, put on Laurel, were took a smoke and were dead in the squad car. I forgot to mention it. That happened. Laurel's dead to protect. Yeah, but yeah, Quentin thought that with what happened with Sarah, Laurel would stop being so reckless. But that's what happens. Stop being so reckless. But Laurel's like, it's not being reckless. Yeah, but then Quentin gets calls about the dog, and is one to one, face to face with the hood, and he's like, "If you flinch, you're dead." But then he just like, and so it's a recorder arrow at him, and he's like, yeah, and he's like, that guy, and just like, and that's how Summers gets the jail, because sometime, Oliver was able to fire arrows at him, but also record him saying that thing that he was able to put into an arrow. and he was able to fire arrows at Summer, and then record what he's saying, and put what he was saying into a record arrow. What? That doesn't make any sense. How could he have been able? How could he have known that he was gonna put that into an arrow? I guess that's a show consistency. so yeah. So yeah. So Martin Summers. Yeah. So Martin Summers goes away. Oliver checks it off a list, and then we see a flash. Then we see a flashback. Then we see a flashback to Oliver on the island where seagulls eat at his dad, and as he buries his dad, someone in a hood shoots him with an arrow. And then we flash back to Moira, and she's still being sketchy. She's talking to this guy, and she's like, actually, wait, yeah. First, I gotta talk about the scene, and yeah. So Oliver decides to prove to Laurel and his parents that that proves them that to see them who they want to see him as. So he decides to pretend to get drunk, pretends to be all looped out or drunk, and be like, yeah, like Walter, he's new dad. And he's not Robert Queen, and people need to stop treating him as. And he walks away. With Laurel looking mad for some reason, but he basically kind of did that, where he took what Laurel said. So yeah, so then Moira's being sketchy, talking to this guy, and she's like, "Hey, you saw? Uh, Robert didn't tell anyone that could hurt them, and and, and he has no idea that the yacht was sabotaged." And then we see the guy open a book with an insignia on it. Yo, Moira, you are a sketchy. Yeah, I thought last episode she was mysterious, but this episode she's just mysterious her. And then we see Oliver at his dad's gravesite, and at his dad's grave at behind his house. So he's basically at his house. He's at his house, and he's like, hey, he can't be the person that his parents wants him to be him at, and save and right his dad's wrong. So he's gonna have to dishonor his dad's memory, and tells the guys to remove the grave sites, to remove the graves, and that kind of, I think that wraps up this episode. Yeah, it's kind of wraps up this episode. What a great episode to the pilot this was. I really enjoyed this one. I can't believe Moira is sketchier. Like, she's working with this random dude, and she's working with this random dude who we don't know yet, and she's also, you know, and she also reveals to us as an audience that the yacht was sabotaged. Yo, who does that? And why would someone do that to Oliver? Makes sense why Sarah died or Sarah's dead, or makes sense because maybe but as they're kissing, the yacht explodes, and then she falls into the water. Like like what? Okay. And okay. So that was this episode. This episode's pretty good. I have one problem. Tia kind of annoys me. She just comes off as a brat character. I get it. Oliver's been dead for 5 years to her, and she wanted him to come back. But she should. And Albert is trying to protect her from doing drugs. But yeah, so that kind of wraps up this episode. It was a good one. Thea's just not my favorite character this season. But do you know who is? Diggle. Diggle is season 1 greatness. Diggle is the best. But next episode, we get introduced to a DC favorite. We get introduced to a DC assassin. So I'll see you next time for another episode of Arrow.